Hey everybody, I wanted to quickly take you through the article that you were supposed to be reviewing. Sorry. This is the impact of noise on nurses in pediatric intensive care units. And I'm just going to go through a few of the questions because some people did have questions. And one of the first things that's really cool about any article is that they have the abstract, and hopefully it is written, well written, but it gives you a quick look at what the heck they were trying to do. And so here the objective really was to measure the noise levels and the noise duration on specialty pediatric ICU and to explore the sources of noise and its effects on the healthcare of registered nurses. If we kind of looked at that simply, it would really be to determine if there's an association between noise levels and the health of the nurses in the sample. This was a cross-sectional study. Remember, cross-sectional tells you right off the bat it's a quantitative study, but also it's a snapshot in time. And so this is really a convenient sample. So, and we'll go into that a little bit more. You can tell it was your sample size is 15 nurses, and they were observed for 4 hours. And I think they actually got several thousand observations during these 4-hour sessions over a 24-hour period. They utilized Pearson's correlation, and they also later on you'll see where they utilized ANOVA. Okay, and then these are some of the results, and these are the conclusions. But I want to go into this quickly because let me see here. It just let me go down here for the sample size. Okay, methods. It always tells you again cross-sectional observational pilot studies. So not a real study, and there's a reason with pilot studies it's a smaller amount of folks, so you can't really generalize the results, but it gives you a good idea where to go for future research. Remember, the whole purpose of quantitative studies are to really be able to generalize the results to an entire population, and with pilot studies you really can't do that. Okay, so let me see here. So this talks about this cross-sectional study, so it's a convenient sample, tells you what it's assessing, noise sources, association between all those, the heart rate and stress levels on 3 different locations, NICUs, PICUs, and CICUs, okay? And this talks about the participants, a total of 15 nurses. So that's our sample size, okay? All right, I'm going to go through this really quickly. The measures were to collect 3 categories of data: the noise sources, and location, and activities, and then heart rate. So this technically is all our variables, except some of our variables are the actual locations of the CICU, PICU, and then the NICU, okay? I'll explain that a little bit more. All right, so let me talk about this. I'm going through some of your questions. I'm looking at them. I don't know. The sample, there's a question on that. We already talked about that, where your nurses were from. It tells you NICU, SICU, and PICU, okay? Let me look at this. This is about exclusion and inclusion criteria. And you know what? There's that number 8 question. It's really dumb. I think that was truly a mistake. But what it tells you, this is your inclusion criteria. Only the nurse, or this is your exclusion. Only nurses who were not scheduled for patient care during the study time, the period that the study was being conducted, were excluded. So that just means that any nurse that was on that shift or during that time was included. So, you can answer 8 and the other question in regards to, I think it was 6, just write inclusion and exclusion. It's very simple. I get it. Okay, so really what I'd rather ask you, but it's not there, what are the level of measurements of some of these things? So if I ask you what the heart rate level of measurement was, you would tell me it's continuous because you can go from 0 to whatever, okay? And we're going to talk about that here in a minute because, I put this because this is what they were talking. This is why I'm deaf. Working in ICU for years and years. This is what they talk about, that you got to keep this sound thing less than 75, not to cause any physiological damage. Okay, so statistical analysis. This was descriptive analysis. All that means is this was not like a random controlled study or a quasi-experimental, okay? It's a cross-sectional study, which is descriptive analysis. You don't do random sampling or anything. Okay, So this was a pilot study in a small sample right off the bat. Those are two limitations when you get to the end of the article. And it talks about how this may not be representative of a larger population. And that's right, the sample is too small. And we'll talk about that in a minute. And here it talks about what they did. The analyses was Pearson's correlation, which is your R, and that was used to look at the relationship between the heart rate and the sound pressure levels, I think is what that stands for. And then ANOVA here was used to look at the differences in noise level and the heart rate between 3 units, okay? So if we wanted to break this down, a bivariate analysis, that means Pearson's correlation, because all you need is, I'm going to pop this up here. For Pearson's correlation, you only have 2 variables. They were looking at the SLPs and the heart rate. Sorry about my typing. But your 2 variables have to be continuous variables to use Pearson's correlation, okay? So that's what they have. They have heart rate, 0 to whatever, and PL's 0 to whatever, okay? ANOVA, you can write actually 2 little questions for this. What's, let me see, the difference in noise level. Well, I guess you only need 1. The noise level and the heart rate between 3 units. So here we go. Remember, ANOVA is you have to have 1 categorical variable with 3 or more, what do I want to say, categories. That's what I want to say. And then 1 continuous variable. So the continuous variable is the noise level because it can be 0 to whatever. And your categorical variables, there's 3, and it's the CICU, PICU, and NICU, okay? So that is why they're running ANOVA. And look at this, that effect size, that's critical. Remember, you may have something that's statistically significant, but the effect size tells you the magnitude of the relationship, which really is all about clinical significance, but we won't go into that. Okay, so now they talk about the results. They give you some numbers here for demographics, what the mean age was, but what I really want to address, because this was one of the questions, is let's see, there was 1 man and a woman, the mean age, but here it says distributions of age and sex were similar to those of the medical center's inpatient nurse population. So the sample was representative of the nurses. All this is saying, this actually gives some credence to the study because it looks like the male to female ratio in this hospital is 1 male to 19 females, lucky guy or an unlucky guy. So that is representative of this hospital's population. You have to have a representative population to be able to really generalize those results, okay? Now, the only problem is we don't know if that ratio is true in the nation. Somebody could go look it up and you could find that out. It's easily found. But we don't know that and they don't say that. So in this study for this hospital, this sample of men and women is representative, okay, of the hospital, but we don't know if it is nationally. I think actually there might hopefully be a little bit more men. I don't know what it is now. Okay, so let me look at a couple other things that had questions. Oh, here's what I want to tell you. So that's the overall SPL, pretty high. This is, okay, the SPLs in the CICU were significantly higher than those in the PICU, and your P is significant at 0.001. And then the SPLs in the NICU were significantly higher than in the PICU with a statistically significant p-value. These are the results of the ANOVA. These are the SPLs comparing it to the 3 different locations, period. That's it, okay? Their biggest thing here, this is a lot of, simple statistics, what I want to say, descriptive as well. I don't care about any of that. What I care about here, this is the correlation results, okay? Whenever you see a R, it's a Pearson's correlation. So these are what they did. They compared this stuff. They compared the heart, let me see, correlation between general sound pressure, SPLs, and the nurse's heart rate. Then they broke it down into units and sources and locations. But overall, Overall, what we see here is a significant, okay, right here, and by the way, this is on question 23, a significant correlation between, let me see here, overall, between heart rate and noise level. This is about heart rate and noise level, but it's a weak positive correlation. And remember, your correlations should go from -1 to 1. And so, yeah, this is a weak correlation, but it was still significant. So there you have it. This goes through all the different correlations. So they broke it down, which is kind of nice, between neonatal, pediatric, cardiac units, and the significance. So what we see is these were significant. A few of these, huh? I'm sorry, I'm just kind of looking and underlining. Oh, yeah, I guess there are some significance there, but that just shows you of the statistical significance between heart rate and sound in each of these settings. That's all. Okay, and then actually, oh, and here's that effect size, very important. Okay, oops, sorry, that was crazy. Okay, so I want to quickly show you this. They break it down further, as you'll know, in these narratives, and they give you the results and they tell you where to look, okay? Mean stress level, noise, the mean heart rate and correlations, and then the noise source, location, and activity. And then they talk about it in the discussion and they give you a little bit more information. Oh, and here's limitations. See, small sample size. It is a pilot study, so we know it's going to be smaller, but you cannot make generalizations off of a small sample size like this. So anyways, I just wanted to give you that. If you guys have more questions, let me know. I know this is quick and dirty.